So what does it mean? Look at my accolades. Look at my degree. Look at my okay. So you're $200,000 in debt to get that degree. Okay, good for you. It's like what is here? What does that look like? And how does here differ from there? How does where you are differ from where you were? And did you automatically assume that leaving where you were and coming to where you are is better than staying where you are and simply making that place better? You understand? Like, do you really feel that everything that you dealt with, the $250,000 in student loan debt, the stress from going to work every day, dealing with microaggressions, just the pressure of everything that Constance was talking about, being black, where your grandma, our grandma taught us this. My grandma taught me this too. Anybody ever have a grandma that told you you have to be twice as good to get half as much? How many of y'all have parents or grandparents that told you that? That when you're black, you got to be twice as good to get half as much. Anybody else hear that, or was it just my family? Right. So you had people you love saying you got to be twice as good to get half as much, and we just accept that. We just assume like that's just what comes with being black. And that's really, really stressful. And what that does, what that speaks to, I'm going to sound financial now. And now I'm putting on my finance professor cap. What happens when you're trained to believe you've got to be twice as good to get half as much? It means you've accepted the idea that you are an undervalued asset. You've accepted the idea that you will never get your worth acknowledged by the market that you're going into. You've accepted that the places that you'll choose to roam are never truly going to see your value, because if they saw your value, then you wouldn't have to do twice as much to get half as much. You could do half as much and get twice as much. Do you understand? Because there are places where that happens. There are places where you can go and get twice as much for doing half as much. Like for example, white women. White women can say that this man touched my booty in 1995 and get $10 million. Right? Again, no, you shouldn't be touching people's booties. Don't do that. But I've seen, when you see these massive payouts, I'm like, man, that's crazy. I wish I got somebody touch my booty in 1995. Can I get at least $1 million for that? I told y'all when I went to when I gave the speech in Chicago, and the lady came up and plopped her titty on my shoulder, and I was like, "Wow, it's a titty on my that's really bold. You must really like me. That's okay. I'm not gonna complain about titties, but ma'am, you should probably move that. Get those things over there, please." But anyway, but it didn't traumatize me, and I was never going to call the police. I was not going to sue her for $1 million. But think about this. Imagine if I, as a black man, had done something similar, plop my junk onto a white woman's shoulder. I could get sued for that. I could lose everything, right? I would definitely go to jail and everything, right? It would be a big thing. So my point is to say that there's certain people in society who can move in a way where they're not an undervalued asset, they're an overvalued asset. And here's the thing about assets. This is where we're going to get into a deep financial lesson, a deeper financial. Everything so far has been a financial conversation. I just want to make sure you understand that when we talk about the finances of institution building and doing our own convention, that's financial lesson. Everything Constance and Lene said was a financial lesson. Here's another part of the financial lesson that I want to kind of loop the conversation into is there's something called arbitrage in finance. Arbitrage is basically where you have a commodity that's undervalued in one place, and you can buy it in one place and sell it in another, and you make a difference. You make what they call a spread. This is how stock markets function, real estate markets function, how banking functions, everything. Global finance functions on this arbitrage concept. And what it speaks to more deeply is that the value of an asset, meaning like you and I, our skill, our talent, our time, the value of an asset is heavily dependent on location.